Both Booksmart and Theater Camp share key similarities in terms of their two main protagonists. In Booksmart, Molly and Amy are advanced and passionate in their field of academics with the main goal of going to an Ivy League college together after high school graduation. Molly acts as the sort of alpha out of the two, and we see Amy's passiveness and feelings of being limited by her friendship with Molly, which eventually leads to a big blowout argument where Amy reveals she's not going directly to Yale with Molly. Instead, she's going to take a gap year to volunteer in another country. In Theater Camp, Amos and Rebecca Diane are established as former theater kids who dreamt of being successful performers and then failed to get into the prestigious performing arts college Juilliard, and they now have resigned their lives to teaching at a summer theater camp for the past decade. Although this seems at its core kind of sad, the two are extremely intense and full of passion, similar to Molly and Amy in Booksmart. They even share a similar dynamic where Rebecca Diane feels a sense of pressure to be codependent on Amos when in secret she applies for a performance job on a cruise ship and gets it. And this reveal leads to a very similar argument to Booksmart's. During the argument, Rebecca Diane expresses her feelings of being held back, diminished, and controlled by Amos, and she even reveals that she got a callback audition to Juilliard all those years back when they both auditioned, but she kept it a secret and never went back because of him. Booksmart is a story of redemption that's driven by insecurity and the need to prove oneself, but it's portraying growth in a type of character that would be appropriately experiencing this type of growth. They're teenagers trying to navigate themselves in a social scene as well in a professional sense, which almost every single high school senior can relate to. And we get so much context to why they are the way they are. Theater Camp is also a story of redemption driven by insecurity. Amos and Rebecca Diane clearly consume themselves with the theater camp every summer because they are trying to fill a void that their own failure has opened up. In Theater Camp, the only prior context we get for the two characters are that they have been teaching there for a while and love it, and they once had a failed dream of becoming successful performers themselves. Apart from that, they have this very entertaining but almost hard to watch insufferability of being maybe too competent at their own craft, and this goes for Molly and Amy in Booksmart as well. Booksmart sort of plays with the concept of satirizing the different types of high school groups, the jocks, the nerds, the hot ones, but ultimately does an extremely realistic job in humanizing all of the characters. In Theater Camp, all the characters, including Amos and Rebecca Diane, feel like this caricature of a theater kid, and it's very hilarious and achieves this comedic effect that really makes the film what it is. But when it comes to driving home a more serious plot point between the two protagonists, it almost doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it pulls you out of all the quite literally theatrics and makes you face the reality of the situation along with the two characters. I couldn't help but notice the obvious similarities in the main conflict between these two films, but moreover, I couldn't help but notice how I felt differently after the two argument scenes. In both these films, the main confrontation is between the two protagonists, where one expresses their feelings of wanting to move on to something different without the other, which results in the other feeling betrayed. And then the solution results in acceptance between the two and an overall message that growth is good. So you would think that the viewer would feel the same for both these films, but ultimately the characters' contexts for both the films are extremely different, and that motivates the effect that a conflict like this has. And I really don't think one film does it better than the other, although I do think I prefer one film more. I just thought it would be thought-provoking to take two similar scenes and pick apart how they are actually very different.
We kind of share a soul, and we are linked artistically, emotionally.
Completely, we are one. You're codependent.
Well,